Speaking of stuff beyond and above my pay grade, there's also a bunch of big news out of at the geopolitical level, which I know you love, out of China. Probably the big thing, there's a couple different parts of this story. The first is that Alibaba announced, I think, $52 billion in spend commitments over the next 3 years. Um, Notable because it's a big public, big spend thing, smaller than what Microsoft has announced they're spending, smaller than what OpenAI has been spending. So not a game-changing number out there. But I thought was most interesting was that China, the country, has sort of put a stake in the ground and had this pretty eventful meeting with the CEO. Well, Alibaba's founder or co-founder Jack Ma was there, someone that we haven't seen
Mhm.
in the press for a long time. Huawei CEO was there, and DeepSeek was there. A number of other players, and it's becoming very clear that China is investing in this space, and in so doing, seems to be laying off a little bit, and some of the pressure or constraints that they were putting on the private companies like Alibaba. And so I think that is interesting and noteworthy, and maybe a signal. Well, I'm not sure if it's a signal. If that's a good sign for the space that these Chinese companies can operate more freely in the normal markets, or if it's a more threatening sign. Now, what was your take on all of it?
Yeah, to me, it feels like the start of an AI Cold War where both sides are going to dump hundreds of billions of dollars to show who has the better AI. It's going to be a little bit like either the nuclear race or the space race. I'm not sure how we're going to determine who wins since we're starting to have trouble figuring out which AIs are actually smarter than the others, but which we'll get to later. But for now, I think it's really interesting. But that Alibaba's here, Huawei's obviously going to do their thing. DeepSeek is going to keep building on what they have, and of course on our side, the United States side, we have this 500 billion dollar Stargate initiative, and we'll see how that goes. But there's no doubt that there's a ton of money being pledged to invest in AI.
And we can't forget the EU just had a big conference. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I'm not even sure if we covered it. And led mostly by France, and of course, France is the home of Mistral, and there was I think announced $120 billion initiative to invest. So,
Mhm.
you are correct that everyone is sort of going in this. What I find is sort of remarkable, and we'll talk about Apple here in a second as well, and slightly disingenuous around it, is that. Um, None of these companies really are nationalistic in the way we used to think about, some of the arguments of like U.S. Steel as an example, right?
Mhm.
Where it was a very U.S. based or any country based industry. Every one of these companies operates on a global basis. Every single one of them has massive operations, and I mean the Chinese may be the more of the exception, but clearly all the Western companies operate on a massive global footprint. Um, and so we talked about that with the Stargate announcement and companies making these big pledges. Apple is just in the news because Tim Cook has announced adding, I forgot what the number was, but like 20,000 jobs or something in the U.S. and building
Right.
factories here.
Mhm.
Um, and but to call Apple a U.S. based company, I know they're headquartered in California, obviously, but they have such deep operations everywhere in the world. Is that really even true anymore? And so I think it is interesting, and I think to your point, it's going to be very difficult to know what quote unquote winning means. But what is clear is that we're going to see lots of movement. This is a ton of money being thrown around, lots of investment, and there's no way for it not to have a major impact and just continue to have a high rate of change with all of it.
Right. At least in the short term, AI will continue to evolve quickly. Models will improve. I'm not sure if the people who create the better models will end up profiting from those models, given some of the other shifts that we've been seeing in AI are about being able to copy quickly and take advantage of new training and inference strategies. But there will be a lot of primary progress made.